And we'd like to thank our sponsors at lightsoutbeef.com, where you can get delicious freeze-dried beef that has been free-range, grazing on grass, never injected with mRNA. Get on over to lightsoutbeef.com and get prepared for the coming food shortages. It's already happening, folks, so get on over to lightsoutbeef.com. Use promo code ANN at checkout. Save 10%. lightsoutbeef.com. Kristina Karamo is the first Black chair of the Michigan State GOP. You know, that grand old party, that elephant that seems to be lost in the field somewhere and can't figure out how to get back on track? Well, she was actually endorsed by President Trump, called an election denier by the mainstream media. Yeah, the fake news. And she also defeated an unsuccessful bidder for the Michigan Attorney General, Matt DePerno, to win the Michigan GOP chair back in February of 2023. Joining me now is Kristina Karamo. You are currently under fire. You have been dismissed by your party as the Michigan GOP under a maelstrom of all sorts of incredible stories. And we're going to get to the heart of it. But I have one question for you right now, because I want to take it back to February of 23 when you were elected. What was the situation like in the Michigan GOP when you were elected in February of 2023?
Well, for one, thank you for having me on. And when I got elected, as you mentioned, I was a Republican nominee for Secretary of State. And when I ran, I had pressure from the former administration to stop talking about elections. So that shows you the type of administration we were under. We were under the old guard, who is a mixture of globalist, controlled opposition, and just what I call political prostitutes who will do anything for a buck. And that's what ran our party. And what we saw was, thanks to the precinct strategy, is just a groundswell of everyday people being elected to the precinct delegate position. And the precinct delegate elects state party leadership, county and district party leadership. And we won by 14 points because people saw through all the candidates and they wanted a change. And not just a change because we just want somebody who's different. It was simply because of our plan. Our big thing is election integrity and outreach. That is our two focuses, and that's been different. The way the party's been structured in the past is you just chase money. So it's all about money, money, money. Now, of course, we need money, right? You need dollars, you need staff and materials. But when the money becomes more important than the mission, then that's how people become corrupt. A lot of people who enter politics don't enter corrupt. It's the system corrupts them because you're told, like, listen, you need this money. You got to shut up about this topic. You got to change your position on this issue. You got to soften. You know, since my time as chair, I've called people trying to fundraise, and they'll say, like, you need to back off the abortion issue. It's killing us, you know? So there's all these concessions that you as chair is pressured to make, and some people just fold under the pressure. I was elected because I won't, because the mission is more important than anything, and that mission comes from God. And we've been put on a mission, and we have to stay focused on that mission, and that's to restore our republic. But that requires us to do some things that the party has never done before.
You know, I remember when I first met you, you talked about cleaning up the DMV because so much is wrong, and it's obviously linked to the voter rolls, which Jocelyn Benson, your less than stellar Secretary of State, I call her a criminal, really, has zero interest in detangling and cleaning up anything, because this is how they steal elections, with dirty voter rolls. Has any progress been made there at all? Since you're not the Secretary of State, has anything happened? Has the GOP been able to wield any influence in that area at all?
Yeah, we partner with a group called Check My Vote. And so they actually have a voter registration cleanup process. So they actually go through the process where not just we have volunteers canvass the neighborhood, they flag the fraudulent registrations, and they actually go to the local clerk to clean them up. But one of the challenges we have found is that the Secretary of State then puts them back in. So that still, in a way, helps us because it sets up a fact pattern of evidence. Sure. One of the things that we have going on is essentially a citizens-led criminal investigation. That's what's going on. So with a citizens-led criminal investigation, our most important weapon is people. We need as many people as possible. And so we have created two programs that kind of feed on each other: our election security operations and our Good Neighbor program, which is the huge citizen recruitment and citizen training platform. It's a closed platform. We own the platform. And our goal is to train as many citizens as humanly possible on how to engage our government. So that includes like public meetings and holding our elected officials accountable. But then the other large part of that is election integrity, because we need people to go off and chase this information within their local municipalities. Because, I don't have subpoena power. I don't have police power. So what we do have is the will of the people, and to create enough pressure to create the change that we need. And hopefully we can get some type of legal action going, or we can have access to the QVF to prevent and flag these fraudulent registrations before they happen. So we do have a project we're working on right now that I can't disclose publicly, but it's all about, cleaning up the QVF and trying to catch the fraud before it happens. Because once the dirty ballot has been cast, the only solution is to throw out the whole election, because that ballot is detached from the voter, so there's no way to retrieve it. So we have to stop the illegal ballots before they're cast, and that's what we're working on. Plus, we're doing other efforts as well to, get election workers and poll challengers, because that's important, because you want to catch the low-level fraud. But people will be surprised how, being a poll challenger, and some may say, well, that's not going to stop the machine corruption. That's not going to stop the dirty voter rolls. No, it doesn't. But I tell you what it does stop. We had a county in Michigan, in Benzie County, where there was a city where the local clerk was out for whatever reason, but the person in her stead was taking ballots home. So again, because volunteers, we catch a lot of these crimes. And so with an aggressive social media strategy, then we can just start flooding all that information to create public outrage. That's what's going to be our best weapon, is public outrage. Because number one, they can't catch us all. Right. And we have to wake up the masses.
Oh, waking up the masses is critical. There's an organization called Tactical Civics. Have you heard of them?
I have.
Okay. I have. They are organizing right now at the county level. There's 3,143 counties here in the U.S., as I'm sure you know. They've got chapters in about 1,500 plus counties currently, and building quickly every single day. They have a strategy of really training people up on the constitutionality of county-led citizen grand juries, in partnership with a certified standing Second Amendment protected, well-regulated militia, talking like khaki pants and a polo shirt with a clean logo on there and a sidearm, to be that enforcement arm for the county grand jury when they do level indictments on people that have engaged in criminal behavior. And these indictments will be very clear with, stating the maxims of law, et cetera, that need to be facilitated through an arrest, and then, of course, prosecuted in Article 3 common law court with a jury of their peers. Is that something you can get behind if you have election integrity evidence that you could show a grand jury?
Well, that's a little new to me as far as citizen-led grand juries. I would have to look at a little bit more. But I do think we have to be creative in how we solve this problem. I mean, it is a citizens-led criminal investigation. So at some point, people are just like, what else can I do? When the police ignore you, when the sheriff ignores you, it's like, what else can we do to save our country? Because these people are in the process of overthrowing our country between the corrupt elections and the open border. I don't know what other choice a lot of people have. So, I mean, I'll have to see, I don't know a whole lot about it, but, I'll definitely have to see and look into it.
Well, I'd be happy to connect you with some of the leadership over there, because it is constitutionally rooted. It's not a made up new way of governing or engaging in law enforcement. It's actually truly based on the Constitution. So we'll set that aside for now. But, interestingly enough, Michigan used to be like just a haven, a juggernaut for fundraising for the Republican Party. Unfortunately, in November, they took a massive hit, losing every statewide office and losing control of the Michigan Senate for the first time in 40 years. Is it safe to say that the grand old party in Michigan is in complete and utter disarray at this moment in time?
Well, it's been a fight. I mean, for sure. I during my time as chair, I mean, the fundraising has not been what we needed it to be, but it's because there've been about 12 people who funded the party. So those people who funded the party don't share our populist vision. They don't. They're status quo Republicans who want to just keep things humming along. Now, again, there's 5 groups of people in politics. You have the patriots, you have cowards, you have what I call political prostitutes. They'll go whatever for the highest dollar or whatever, they lick their finger and put their finger in the air. Then you have blackmailed people. And that's one of the biggest currencies in politics, is blackmail. Then you have traitors to the republic. And so I'll say all that to say is that, a lot of these people are a mixture. And they just funded the failed status quo. And unless you're willing to capitulate to what they want, they're not going to fund the party. But there's been an ongoing effort to try to destroy my personal reputation. That way people lack confidence in the party to contribute. But even prior to me becoming chair, there hasn't been a lot of donors. It's only been a handful of people. We did some analysis, and it was like 95% of the money came from about 25 people. Well, that's ridiculous. No healthy nonprofit functions that way. And because what happens, and then those people all work in court in concert. So those people work together, and one of them says, we're not going to support, then all of them walk away. And it's not because I'm some unreasonable person. You would think that people will just support the party, but we're anti-globalist. So that puts us that creates a big wedge. But, we are grassroots funded, and it's not that we poo-poo on large donations. No, but unfortunately, many of the people who funded this party did not share our values at all. And as a matter of fact, they actively suppressed any kind of grassroots effort because they just want to keep the grassroots with their foot on our heads. And you can knock doors and wave signs, but that's it. You can't do anything else.
So what I'm hearing you say, before I move on to the next subject, is it looks like the mega donors essentially were just basically not permitting you to do any sort of real grassroots activist fundraising. Zero campaigning. It was really difficult to go out and set up another sort of funding mechanism to actually get to the actual individuals in Michigan to actually fundraise across the Republican database. Is that accurate? They were not permitting you to get that done, or they just wouldn't?
Well, to your point about database, so one of the things that happened when we took over, the former administration would not give us the email list. That's huge. I'm sure they have millions of people on that email list because they've been accumulating it for years. So they refused to share their information with us. So then that created a massive fundraising deficit. And then all these some of the politicals, like the political oligarchy, their people went and started writing a series of nasty articles about me as chair. So when that occurred, that really changed the dynamic because these people had essentially put it out like Karamo is persona non grata. And so, even when we tried to hire people into key positions who maybe had some political experience, they wouldn't work for the party because the way it works is that a lot of these people, they have to hope that other candidates hire them. And so if the political class says, hey, you can't work for this person, we've deemed them persona non grata, then they're not, because they're afraid they're not going to get other jobs in the future. So it's really insane how corrupt this system works. And I've seen it internally, personally. And so, since I've been elected chair, we have people who give us to us regularly, and we're not about to go broke, but it's not where we need to be. But that's a result of internal sabotage. Like my own co-chair was part of the effort to try to illegally remove me. So, and she went over the summer and began making false accusations about me, about how I was managing the party's finances, which were completely false. Well, then when your own co-chair is out making false accusations to the general public, they go like, well, what's going on? And so she was part of the plan from the very beginning. So it's really insidious how this whole thing's going on, because what the political class cannot have is a person they have no dirt on. They can't have that. They have,
but they're good at making it up. I've watched that happen everywhere. People like to make up dirt. So just to reiterate, you stepped in as chair, and they would not release their database to the individual that was taking over the party that should have access to the database so that you could continue to fundraise. And you were beholden to a handful of top level donors who were steering the ship according to what they wanted to get done, not what was necessarily best for the party to accomplish what they need to do in order to win elections going forward.
They win elections and save the country. Because that's the piece. Winning elections with just any old Republican. I mean, you can get a Mitt Romney Republican. Is that what we really want? No. We want constitutionalists who are actually going to fight and save this country. And that's not what the political class wants. What they want are people who are going to pass bills to advance whatever their personal agenda is. And remember this, for the audience, is the World Economic Forum has 2 offices in Michigan, one in Wayne County, one in Oakland County. And it was our Republican-led legislature that gave them $3 million. It wasn't the Democrats. It was Republicans in our legislature, plus even in my county where I live in Oakland County. Our commissioners gave them $3 million. Now, this is a complete anti-American organization who's trying to erode national sovereignty. Why would our Republican-led legislator, who we are the party of the Constitution, give them $3 million? And then the Senate majority leader on his way out, he's going to whine and complain about the World Economic Forum. It's like, well, it's too late, fool. You already given him $3 million and legitimized them. So when you have Republicans like those, who need Democrats?
Yeah, that's what they say, right? With friends like that, who needs enemies? Okay, I want to move on here because what started this firestorm and got a lot of people's attention was this post that was put up by Laura Loomer a few weeks back, and she's tagging you on it as the chairwoman of the Michigan GOP, saying that you are registered in Nevada as the president of a shell company called Unauthorized. There was an interview back in October of 2023 where Karamo's own executive director, Matt Meck, said Karamo is the president of Unauthorized. And in his own words, he said, I am reaching out to get some grassroots Democrats on the board because we're nonpartisan. He goes on to talk about Unauthorized, saying that we will support you. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. And then Laura Loomer asks, why, as the chairwoman of Michigan GOP, is Kristina Karamo a part of an organization that's telling Democrats and independents to schedule a consult if they're interested in running for office, and is illegally telling these candidates how they can backdoor their funds for tax write-offs with the Center for Security Policy while the group Unauthorized was not even approved by the IRS. You can't get tax write-offs for C4s. This is beyond illegal and totally unethical to tell candidates to use a C3 to get funds for their political work. Loomer calls this money laundering, and she talks about the Nevada business registration still has you legally listed. I did verify that. I can show that some websites still show you as the president of that, Kristina. But I want to hop down to this interview because I just want to get your take on what Matt Meck said here on the flyover conservatives when he did address the money aspect of raising money for Unauthorized. Take a listen.
Is waiting. It's still pending to be a 501c4 status. IRS is waiting. You have till the end of November, 180 days. They give you the approval. If folks want a tax write-off. As a C4, we don't have that because we're nonpartisan. If the Constitution is your North Star, we will support you. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican or independent. But if they want a C3, they can coordinate. They can contact me. The email there, contact@unauthorized.one. And Center for Security Policy is a 501c3. They will pass through funds to us from like a C3 to a C4. So if folks do want a tax deduction, there's a way to do that. I just wait.
Okay, so that's what his claim was, that you could use another nonprofit, a C3, to get a tax deduction so that the money could be donated from the C3 to the C4 because, they're just passing it through. Is that something, A, you subscribe to, B, is he accurate in his statement, and C, are you still president of Unauthorized?
So one, everything Unauthorized done has always been legal. So I am not a lawyer or a tax expert. So I'm trust that Matt, if he said it's legal, it is. I'm no longer the president, but I did not handle any finances. I was never paid from the organization. I never was, it was never under any expectation to get paid or receive any kind of political favors or receive any kind of personal gain or benefit. Matt himself never got paid from the organization. So as far as the C3 and C4, to my understanding, C3s can give money to C4s. So I believe, I'm pretty positive that's accurate, that C3s can give money to C4s. But in his comment, he never mentioned about candidates receiving any money. The point is that Unauthorized, no longer the president, but how that came about was back in 2021, when a group of us got together in Las Vegas to form the Candidates Coalition to fight for election integrity. That's how I got to know Matt. That's how I got to know several other people like Rachel Ham, who sits on the board for Unauthorized, and several other individuals who are fighting for election integrity. And as we campaigned and saw that election fraud is not a partisan issue, we've seen that there are Democrats who are speaking up and fighting about election fraud. And so our candidate coalition had multiple events across the state. And so several of us thought it would be a good idea to start AC4, which is completely lawful. Again, I've never made a penny off of it, never intended on making any money off of it. Our goal was to promote constitutionalism and election integrity. And that's why Matt said, if the Constitution is your North Star, we don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, we will help you. But I decided to step down as president from Unauthorized. I just didn't have the time. And it could potentially, I was falsely accused of being a Democrat. But it's also important to know, as I asked Laura Loomer to be on her show, and her, Matt, and myself are in a group chat, and we told her, you're getting this completely wrong. You're completely misrepresenting what's going on. Have us on your show so we could talk about it. but she refused to do it. And because he had her phone number and shared it with me because she had previously made false accusations about the Michigan Republican Party. And so when I tried to talk to her, I had other mutual friends reach out to her and say, you need Kristina on your show, have her on your show. So even if she thinks we're wrong and thinks we're horrible, have us on our show and on your show and blow us up. But why make claims about us and then refuse to have us on your show when you're making false claims and trying to portray me as a Democrat? That's not what happened whatsoever. Democrats have been very good at this through, as you know, like Arabella, and they'll pass money from their C3s and their C4s, and they have these C4s that are nonpartisan. And we were working to accomplish something very similar that what they do, and they beat us hand over fist by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nothing corrupt, nothing illegal, nothing shady going on. It was simply a group of America First Republicans who put together this organization. Now, we do want people who are not Republican to fight in this cause for election integrity because it's an American issue. It's not partisan. I
agree. Voting is an American issue. It shouldn't be partisan, 100%.
And then we've seen, as I mentioned kind of earlier, is we had the chair of our Senate Oversight Committee after 2020 go tell our Marxist Attorney General to consider criminally investigating people who alleged fraud in the 2020 election. And he's a Republican. So it has been Republicans. We fought every step of the way after the 2020 election when we stood on the steps of the Capitol demanding an audit. I mean, the thing that's so crazy is in the Michigan Constitution, it states in Article 2, Section 4H, that we the people have a right to an audit of our election. So they had no reason or no claim as to why they couldn't do it other than pure corruption and cowardice. So you fast forward to unauthorized. That's what, through our candidate coalition and myself, Mark Fincham was part of that group and Jim Rashawn, the candidate coalition specifically, we just saw that this was a national problem. So we decided to start a C4 that would tackle election corruption nationally and get as many people on board as possible. So it was nothing shady or illicit. But if Loomer had any integrity, she would have taken me up on my offer and had me on her show. And then she could ask all her questions there. But she didn't want that. And then she went on to publish a bogus report that was prepared by a lawyer from Warner Norcross and Judd, who defended GBI strategies amongst other egregious acts, and published a report where they're citing Project 65. Well, if people don't know about Project 65 is a group that's trying to strip the law licenses away from election integrity lawyers. So why would any credible attorney who is a Republican create a bogus dossier? It's like the Steele dossier in Michigan, trying to trash myself and our attorney, because it's not just me they want to take out, but I'm the chair. It's also our attorney. Because our attorney is a fearless election integrity lawyer, and I picked him for that reason. So why would she, with any integrity, post that report? And then also on her website, she went after our lawyer. I mean, this guy doesn't take a penny. He does all this for free. And patriots across the state who need his help, he doesn't charge them a nickel. And here she is, not even in Michigan, trashing patriots. And so she can trash me, but I don't like our attorney being trashed, because he is a complete patriot who self-sacrifices in every way imaginable to protect this republic. And she just sits there and talks crap on social media, but hasn't done anything meaningful to stop the Democrats besides talk trash.
All right. Okay. Well, I feel like you've addressed that. I do want to just make you aware of this in case, because I know when you file paperwork, when you remove yourself off of Secretary of State website for a business, nonprofit, for-profit, doesn't matter. It takes a little time. This page is just pulling from the Nevada Secretary of State website, but it still shows you according to 2024. It was updated in 2024. When specifically doesn't say, but it just still shows you as president, FYI, in case it hasn't actually been updated. Are these names still accurate? Marie Mack and Rachel Ham as secretary?
Well, they are still board members. So, when I talked to Matt, he put out, Authorized put out a press release about it, stating that, with their filing, they had to amend their tax filings. And then at that time, my name would be removed, but that it wasn't any kind of harm to the organization. And it hasn't impeded in my function as chair of the Michigan Republican Party. Unauthorized was started in April of 23, I believe, sometime in the spring of 23 when the organization started. And, again, our goal was election integrity and constitutionalism. At the time, I did not think I would be facing as much internal sabotage from the party. And I thought I could do both, but I realized that I just couldn't do both. So that's why I stepped away from unauthorized, but I still very much support their mission.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I want to talk a little bit about election integrity with respect to, if you don't mind, can we talk about Arizona quickly? Because that has been, like Pennsylvania, like Georgia, like Michigan, it has been an opportunity to peel back the onion, but more importantly, just basically take electoral votes away from Biden and hopefully stop the carnage. Because as the work I'm doing with Operation Burning Edge, Michael Yan and a team of people that are headed down to Darien Gap again for another look at the atrocity of what's coming in the next massive wave into the United States, it's not pretty. And this wouldn't be happening if we did have President Trump going back to 2020. So looking at Arizona from your perspective, there's been a lot of lawsuits filed. Kari Lake, Abe Hamadeh, again, had the election stolen in 2022. There's two people that have made a lot of noise down there, and they don't get a lot of press over this. Michelle Swinick and Leo Donofrio. They're talking about statutes, and statutes specifically that haven't even been listed in the lawsuit, namely one that has to do with how you count the ballots. There's a reconciliation statute, meaning when you walk in the door, they count you, and then when your ballot's placed in the tabulator, they count that, they reconcile them to make sure they match, right? At the end of the day, walk-in and ballot have to have the same number. But the other statute just doesn't seem to get any play at all in the court cases. And it seems like, to me, that's that low-hanging fruit. I'm not a lawyer, but maybe you can shed light on why lawsuits tend to, feature some statutes and not others, and then go nowhere in a statutory court. What's really going on here?
Well, you have corruption with our judges. I think, and I'm pausing here to really find the words. I don't think people realize how deep the rabbit hole goes of corruption. Our courts are, I'll give you a perfect example. So when I mentioned with the whole Loomer situation and that report that she was sharing that cited Project 65, in that case, we filed a lawsuit against the clerk and the Board of Election Inspectors in Detroit when I was running for Secretary of State. It had to do with the Reliable vote machine that's not lawful for use in our elections, that can print, fold, stuff ballots, check the QVF. That is the job of the Board of Election Inspectors, to do signature verification, which is a critical piece. When you have mail-in ballots, signature verification is really the key to verifying that ballot is actually filled out by the actual voter and not a fraudster. In the adjudication process and duplicating ballots outside of the law and not proper monitoring of ballot drop boxes, and the list goes on. The judge would not hear any of our evidence, wouldn't listen to any of our witnesses, called us racist, and threw the case out of court. And then he just let the defendants just, kind of bloviate on how they're going to do this and they're going to fix this and just take their word for it with no public scrutiny. Right. And I say that to say that Judge Kenney, he's in retirement now, but that has been the story. He has continuously protected election fraud in the city of Detroit. So when you have judges in on it, what do you do? This is the situation we're in. And so we hope to get in front of honest judges, or they'll just slow walk the case, just slow walk it all the way up. So we had also a situation here in Michigan, where there was a lawsuit filed regarding Jocelyn Benson and her illegal mandates regarding poll challenger conduct. And the case went all the way up to the state Supreme Court, and I think it's just stuck there. But that's the reason why I mentioned that, is because it happens because our judges are, a lot of the judges, not all, right? Not all, of course, but the judicial branch has been compromised. These people we're dealing with, they're almost like a global cult. They have infiltrated every aspect of our government, even from the county sheriff down to the janitor who has keys to get into the offices. This is how deep this goes, because you can't think about it like this to the audience. How do you have systemic election corruption surgically deployed nationally simultaneously without some type of massive coordination, right, to remove a duly elected president? You got to have some massive organizational coordination to pull it out nationally, and then have the media in on it, the cover up. Right. Because you didn't just have the crime, there's the cover up and the continual gaslighting of the public. This shows that there's a massive effort behind this. So, and also they couldn't just have the media and elected officials. Now you're going to have the courts. Why? Because that discredits us. And goes, all these cases keep getting tossed out of court. Nobody wants to hear these cases. This is how deep the corruption goes. And that's why with our Good Neighbor program, our piece is to just try to get as many people involved as possible.
So I want to bring it back now to the situation that you find yourself in. Your co-chair has obviously turned her back on you. The Detroit News actually reported that the move to basically to accomplish getting you ousted was in part through proxy votes and a rule change that occurred at a meeting where overall there are about 100 members of state committee people, which manages the party. And they also have the power to unseat officers like yourself. Is that actually accurate in that statement?
No, what happened? I'm still the chair of the Michigan Republican Party, but this is perfect kind of what we talked about earlier, how deep the swamp goes. You had the media prior to this gathering. The media is reporting that there's going to be a vote to remove Kristina Karamo. And we reached out to the media like, this is not accurate. These people had no authority to call this meeting. And it was 40 people out of 107 people. So the majority of the committee still supports me as chair. And the majority of the committee didn't show up to their gathering because it was completely illegitimate.
Right.
And so what they did is because they have the political class in their pocket, the political class pushed on their media contacts to start reporting that there was going to be a vote to remove me. And our communications director reached out to the media and go, how can you report this when you haven't even contacted the party? Like, who are you talking to? So clearly it's members of the political class and the deep state behind it. So deep state wants me gone. So what they did was they got a bunch of proxies because the actual members wouldn't show up because the majority of the members support me. And they got a bunch of proxies to be stand-ins to claim that they voted me out. It's so illegal. So illegal. It's unbelievable. And so what they've done is they've created conflict with the help of the political class to hope that the courts and the RNC will bail them out. Because even if we have 2 lawsuits going on right now where I'm being sued because these individuals want control of the party, where their cases they're making largely to the courts is she's just terrible as chair. That's not the point. Did you follow the lawful procedure to remove me? No. She's making the case to the RNC and to the courts that she's just terrible, isn't it? Because it's the political class. Of course, I'm terrible to the political class of deep state. They want their operation back.
Well, isn't that a fact? I'm not even sure the deep state's lost their operation at this point with the way things are going. It's in such a disarray. Question: with everything that's going on, I know President Trump, endorsed you. You've spoken on the podium before him in rallies. Have you spoken to President Trump about any of this? Have you had any contact with anybody in his inner circle since all this is manifested?
Since the chair dispute, no, not particularly. Because unfortunately, the people around him support Pete Hoekstra, who's the guy who's trying to illegitimately take me out. So, I'm not bothered, upset. It's just they're trying to throw him in jail, bankrupt him. I mean, they're just trying to persecute this man, terrorize him, and to destroy his presidential campaign. Because I have to say this for our bylaws, but I can't endorse in the primaries. Our officers can't endorse for any candidate in any primary, or we'll get removed. So I have to be careful because it's kind of funny, Ann, is that I get these situations where people will ask me, like, do you support President Trump? Well, they want to trip me up, and then I go out and publicly say I support him. And they can go, see, she violated the bylaws. You got to throw her out. I mean, you'll be surprised.
Right.
So I have to be careful. But with that being said, I mean, he's a phenomenal president. Everybody knows who that he is the guy for this. We know that. But with that being said, I can't be bothered by the fact that some of the people in his circle want Pete Hoekstra. But it's the delegates on the ground in our committee want me to remain chair because they know what's going on internally. And they know Pete has no ethics.
Is there a writing campaign right now for this to be made in a more public fashion? Are the delegates organizing to coalesce and mobilize behind you in a more public fashion?
Yes, at our convention.
At your convention.
At our convention.
Okay. What about General Flynn? I mean, in full transparency, I did introduce you to Joe and said, Joe, you all need to take a look at this lady because I met you in February back in 2021. It was in Las Vegas, and then we were at a Lindell event in Michigan, if you remember. So you got that endorsement from General Flynn back then. I'm just curious.
I haven't really talked to them. I haven't talked to him about this dispute. I know some other people have talked to him on my behalf about this dispute. I believe, people have talked to others within that network about this because the problem I have, and this is one of the reasons why, this is the political class versus the everyday citizen. This is a common story. And that's why we remain with the majority of the support, because Pete Hoekstra, he was chair of the House Intel Committee. He supported the Patriot Act. So, that shows you what we're dealing with. The guy was a House Intel chair for 3 years, supported the Patriot Act, and was a congressman for 18 years. So he has massive reach, massive reach. And he was President Trump's ambassador to the Netherlands. So he does have connections in that world, but ultimately the delegates do not want him as chair because they know it's going to be a blast in the past. Because even in his statements he's put out, it's been a return to all the stuff we wanted to get rid of.
Right. Well, I'm not a supporter of the Patriot Act, and I don't think anybody in my audience is. They clearly know what that has turned into, a total violation of our Fourth Amendment civil liberties. So anyway, what's next for you, Kristina? Because right now, Michigan is a critical state. We need all hands on decks. We need, as I will offline with you about tactical civics, because I think it is a wonderful grassroots movement. And there's people in Michigan that have massive chapters up there, and you should be plugged into that. The party should be, who's ever running the GOP in Michigan should be plugged into tactical civics. For that matter, so should the Democrats. We want to clean up anything that's illegitimate and unlawful and illegal. It doesn't matter what the party is at this point. But getting back to you, what is next for you?
Just focused on our election integrity efforts and focused on clean and community organizing. One of the reasons why it's so important, a lot of people really want me to remain as chair, because the state party chair selects the next Republican state board of canvasser, and the state board of canvasser certifies the elections. So you can imagine if it's me or, I call him Perpetrating Pete, picking the next state board of canvasser. Now I already know who I'm picking. It's in my head, but I never share it. I know the people I'm putting up. I already know they are people who cannot be corrupted, and they will not back down, and there's no stone they won't unturned. So that's one of the reasons why me staying in the seat is so important. But my focus is just getting the communities organized, getting people connected with their elected officials. We have a training platform so people can know how their government works, how to engage their elected officials, how to obtain information. And then also we got to start communicating with our neighbors. We got to cross-pollinate. We cannot stay in our little bubbles. That is not working. And so we have a plan that way people can start fighting on small local issues that are important, but those can be icebreakers to get to some of the major issues, because you can't start off with, did you know there's a worldwide plot to overthrow the United States of America through subversion and infiltrating our institutions? People will just dismiss you. But if you start with, like, we have a city here in Wayne County where before I became chair, they passed a city ordinance to register pedal bikes. It's completely stupid. But that's something you can go talk to your neighbors about, some of those simpler issues. And then as you begin to coalesce your neighbors politically on some of those lighter issues, then you can transition to the heavy issues, because people go into a state of denial when they realize what we're actually up against. It's too overwhelming for them. And so you got to ease them. You got to ease it on them. But my point is that we have a strategy, and that's what I'm focused on. Yes, the other stuff is annoying. Yes, it can be a distraction sometimes, but I can't get distracted. I can't.
No. Kristina Karamo, where can folks follow you? What's the best place for them to learn about what's next for you and what's next for Michigan, more importantly?
Just Kristina Karamo on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just Kristina Karamo. And please go to migop.org to see what the state party is up to, what all we're doing. And just get connected with our Good Neighbor program if you're a Michigan resident. And then we always post new information on the state party's website, whether we have an election integrity tab where people can learn about our efforts, court cases, and various things that we're doing. And we hope to not only get more Michiganders involved, but really inspire people to fight back, because that's what's missing. People, they need to see a clear path, and we have a path to fight back. We hope it'll work, but it'll work if people get involved, because if people don't get involved, it's not going to work, because it's all a grassroots effort. We can't look for a political savior to come and rescue us. It doesn't work that way. That's not how our country was designed.
No, it's not. And as wonderful as President Trump is, he still needs the people to do their civic duty, which is govern. We have to govern, and we have sort of elected people, and we just turned it off. We didn't pay attention to anything they were doing, and look at the mess we're in. So appreciate your time. Thank you for addressing these really difficult questions, and God bless. And we'll pray for Michigan and for the guidance to make sure that Michigan ends up on the right side of all of this so that we can reelect President Trump. I said it, you didn't. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Hi, I'm Ann Vandersteel. I want to talk to you a little bit about your health. Part of my daily routine is to get up in the morning and get a little exercise on. If I have time for a mile or 7, doesn't matter. I get out the door every single day. It's important to get my body moving and get that oxygen flowing through my brains. What is also equally important is what I put in my body after I exercise. I rely on vanderstilhealth.com, where I have a delicious selection of superfoods and other supplements. But first and foremost for me are my superfoods. I have a delicious shake every single day. It is organic, all made in the United States of America, non-GMO, never processed before, dehydrated superfoods. And when they reconstitute with water, milk, or whatever juice you like, it makes a delicious, healthy, plant-based protein supplement. And I say supplement because, frankly, I use this as a meal replacement. This is what's helped me lose the last 20 pounds of COVID. I'm back down to my fighting college weight, fitting in my college clothes, and feeling better than ever. So go to vanderstilhealth.com and get your delicious superfoods. Get on the transformation program with us. It's a 30-day kickoff, and it will get your day starting out great. And watch the weight just fall off. Watch the energy increase, the brain fog lift, and of course the ancillary benefits in your hair, skin, and nails. All these things, you are what you eat. Remember that. Go to vanderstilhealth.com.